Hello and welcome to the Uncalled For. We have a great show planned for you tonight. We are going back over the Iranian protests, and we've also got a special guest with us today. We've got Starsky with us, so this is going to be really exciting. This is going to be a lot of fun, and my new addition to the set. There's an Easter egg if you want to look for it. So thank you very much for joining us. We've got Dawson with us tonight. We've got DKG Custom, Claire Esbear, and like I said, of course, we've got Operator Starsky and Mipet as well. So we're all here. We're going to have a great show. So let's get right into it and get started. Thank you so much. So how's everybody today? All good?
Good. Big
Excellent.
Topics.
Doing good.
Excellent.
Having a great Sunday. Big show.
Waiting for the
Oh,
show
yes.
to happen.
Definitely. So, oh, they noticed the cat. Yes, if anybody's been paying attention to the community posts, I've taken over, and well, there's a ton of Palace's cats in there. So, and there's actually now one on this set. That's my kitty. So, my representative. So, there we go. Thank you so much. We've got a lot to cover. I found some good things, some good information, and we've also got some sort of directly from the source. So this should be really good and really informative tonight, we hope. So, do you want to get right started, Dick, with the first?
Sure, here we go.
I've got, yes. And I've got it up too, so I can read it here. Oops. Well, maybe not. So, yeah, so we've got what to know about the Iran protests. And it says demonstrations are ongoing in Iran after a woman died last month in the custody of morality police. And how significant are these protests? Iranian women have been involved in previous protests, but these are notable for their vehemence in opposing regime policies. And still, these demonstrations on the whole should be thought of as part of a continuum of protests addressing a wide range of concerns. In just the past few months, Iran has been rocked by demonstrations prompted by economic grievances involving teachers, retirees, and farm workers, among other groups. Protests against economic conditions have become chronic in Iran, where inflation is running high, and the government has weakened support for welfare and other social services. Such protests increasingly turn political in Iran as the regime seeks to tighten its grip. So there's a lot more involved, is basically what we're saying, and this is just adding to it. It talks about how she was arrested by morality police and charged with violating the country's dress code. Mahsa Amini's family says she was in good health at the time of her arrest, while police released what they said is footage of her collapsing at the police station before she was declared dead at the hospital. So does anybody want to talk about what's going on here? Since we got a little bit more information, go ahead, Starsky.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I think that this is a very significant situation in Iran. We need, in my personal opinion, we need to support those protesters as much as we can for different reasons. Reason number one, yes, people are protesting because they are fed up with the economical situation, and I'm talking about this because I have friends there, and plus there's quite a few Ukrainians living in Iran, and basically what they were telling me was that people are very, very poor, and basically Khamenei steals a lot of money. So why we need to support them is because most of those protesters, like it was in Ukraine, for example, in 2013, they were young men, they were students, they were people who wanted to change their country, right? And in Iran, we can see absolutely a similar situation. Young people who want to change situation, they had the same problem. They have the same problem that we had with corruption, with dictatorship, with some absolutely ridiculous, I don't know, restrictions, and it's also very significant in terms of geopolitical situation. Why? Because Iran can help Europe big time in terms of oil, by the way. Currently, we know that Russian terrorists used their resources, their oil, their gas, in order to blackmail and manipulate Europe. And when this invasion in Ukraine started, my hope was that Iran basically can support Europe, and that would make country much richer. It would remove a lot of sanctions, and it could improve international relations, basically. So that would only benefit this country. Unfortunately, they decided, the regime of Khamenei decided to support Russia for whatever reasons, and they only made his own grave deeper in this
Right.
regard, because they sold Russia drones. Currently, we know that they will be selling them ballistic missiles, and situation did not improve, it only got worse. So we gotta do everything we can, in my opinion, to support Iranian resistance. But there's a very, very big problem at this point. They don't have enough probably experience, because again, we can see democratic protests in a country that despises democracy, and usually it doesn't work that way. In case of such revolutions, okay, that are happening in a country that is ruled by a despotic regime, you gotta be prepared to kill and to die. Unfortunately, that's what makes me very sad about this situation, because when it happened in Ukraine, we were conscious that we can die, and we were ready to do so, but we were also ready to fight back, because police was shooting protesters using live ammunitions. And we created our self-defense groups that were basically protecting the protesters against police. And and another thing is that Khamenei basically blocks all the communications. So the protesters, they don't have enough chance to tell about their protest to their internal audience, as well as the international community, because Khamenei is blocking VPNs. Majority of the most popular messengers are blocked in Iran as well, and it makes this harder, because we cannot see much information from what happens there. And inside of country, they also don't see much, much info on that. What they see is basically this Khamenei's propaganda on the TV. They say things like, of course, it's all America. America is fueling those protests, and they say that young people are protesting because during this COVID pandemic, they were watching porn on American websites for 2 years, and they went crazy. I'm not kidding. That's what
Yeah.
they say on the TV in Iran. So we gotta find a way to help them somehow. In my opinion, we definitely gonna do that because Iran is a strong country, and they have great potential. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And that is very true. Been having a very hard time trying to get information about this because they do have everything locked down so tightly, and they have tons of restrictions on journalists there, and they even have a special jail there that they political dissidents go to, and they send them to this one prison that's just known for that. Then they send journalists there, they send protesters there, they send any dissidents there. So it's very hard to get information in and out of there. So it's just, that's what one of the things I was reading getting prepared for this was talking about too, about how and they blocked everything including VPNs, and so people aren't getting able to get things in and out. It's really bad. So, and there were some good comments in the chat too. One that I just noticed in particular, Johan Janssen said, the Iranian people are intelligent and fairly highly educated. Still, they got in the grip of psychopathic power grabbers working under the pretense of religion. And that's it. And like we had said last week, we're not going to bash any religion. We're just going to, their interpretation of it is bad. That's what we're bashing. And that's exactly what Johan was saying. It's bad. These people are taking it to the extreme, and they're just, and people can't even, they even control how you dress there. It's not only what you see and hear, it's how you dress is what's controlled there. So.
It's a little scary to see how the political faction, the government itself, is using that religious extreme faction to their benefit. They're actually promoting and doing it in a terroristic way to get their way. It's not even like those voted in the government were behind and believing in the some of the laws that they're trying to enforce. It's It's a little scary and foretelling. I think we were talking about this earlier. As an American, it scares me greatly because I see similarities going on right now in how bad it can get. Because they are separate.
Yes.
The Khomeini is separate from the president and the government there, and they are just feeding off each other this way, and it's like a whirlwind of just oppression. It's
yes.
It's terroristic in its nature and how they're handling it. I can't believe that people, I understand why people are protesting against it, because it's just violent and terroristic. There's nothing else to call it but terroristic, how they're treating their own people. It's
exactly
my way or the highway, with life or death consequences. Not exactly just like, I'm going to take this away from you, or there's a penalty, or you can't get this job. This is like life or death penalties. That's terroristic. It's quite violent and horrible.
They do. And the last time I had checked, there were a bunch of children that had been killed that have gone out and protested this too. School age kids, primary school age and middle school and on up through. They've all had enough already. And that's, so it's not good at all.
No.
So I think we should, and it's asking if the regime will crack down further or might it offer gestures of accommodation. The government usually deals with these protests through a mixture of measures. In this case, the president spoke with Amini's family and called for an investigation to determine the cause of her death. And a representative of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has also visited her family, although Amini's father has accused the regime of a cover-up. At the same time, the regime has been quick to try to contain the demonstrations by arresting protest leaders and shutting off social media platforms that, in the regime's view, act as a contagion. The latest move from authorities was to hold a counter-demonstration of regime supporters on that Friday that they had posted this. Raizi's address to the UN General Assembly struck a defiant tone. Did he face pressure during his visit to the United Nations to soften the government's treatment toward women? Raizi and other hardline leaders of the Islamic Republic show no deference to Western sensibilities. In his speech, Raizi condemned Canada's treatment of Indigenous people, for instance, and accused Western nations of applying double standards on human rights. No member of the U.S. delegation at the United Nations walked out during his speech, as U.S. diplomats have done in previous UN addresses by Iranian leaders. Still, U.S. President Joe Biden and other Western leaders condemned the actions of Iran's morality police, and the U.S. Treasury Department announced new sanctions against members of the force. So at least, more sanctions, it's going to make things harder for those people who are protesting the economic things and this as well. So and unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be putting enough pressure on the regime. So
I'm not seeing enough pressure anywhere close yet. No way.
Exactly. DKG.
Yeah, I can't believe, you said that Khomeini went out to visit her, her parents and her family. That's like sending Darth Vader to go and see the victim support panel on the losses of people on Alderaan. That's the last person you'd want to see to come and sympathise with you, is the fucking cunt that basically caused it.
Basically caused the issues to begin.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. I can't imagine what it'd be like.
No,
can't imagine what it'd be like to be her parents and have that twat come round saying, "Oh, very, very, very sorry about your daughter. Oh, it's terrible, terrible. Yeah, you bastard."
Exactly.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Exactly. I know, it's just insanity. Claire.
Yeah, and then they wonder why the family is coming out and saying, and we think there's this massive problem here. Like you're all like paying attention to it, but we still think there's cover up. Like, she was fine. You're not going to get us with all this nicety to be quiet about it. The father's being very outspoken from what I hear.
That's actually good. He's very brave too.
Very brave, because that's dangerous. I mean, like they actually came to visit him. I imagine that was uncomfortable. Like DK said, that's like almost insulting.
And they only sent a representative. That's even
it wasn't even the Khomeini. It was a representative, right? It was like somebody else speaking for them.
Exactly. That's just horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Starsky was very, very correctly correct in pronunciation.
Yes, sorry.
It's not Khomeini. It's so fucking close. I mean, how do we say it? Come on, Starsky, you sort us out. How do we pronounce it?
It's Khamenei. Khomeini was their previous dictator, basically, and Khamenei is their current one. What I wanted to say is that I see so much similar to what we had during the revolution in Ukraine, those counter protests, for example, because it was absolutely the same here. In 2013, when this revolution started, our dictator Yanukovych brought a lot of people from Donbass to counter protest the revolution in Ukraine, and a lot of those people they were brought like almost forcefully. They didn't want to participate. They had their own life. Instead, they had to live in tents next to our parliament building, and a lot of them actually would join our protest. On the other hand, there were a lot of thugs, people from boxing gyms, MMA gyms, and stuff like that. The most notorious was so-called Oplot. It was a Russian chauvinistic organization slash boxing gym. And they killed plenty of people, by the way. So when the separation of Donbass began after Russian troops moved there, those became basically the foundation of pro-Russian terrorists. But as for Iran, there's basically the same situation. They're using those counter protests in order to show that the resistance doesn't represent the whole society in Iran. On the other hand, I asked specifically about this, and I've been told that people in Iran are fed up completely with the situation. They want Khamenei to go because they're losing businesses. They live in poverty, basically. They cannot afford buying an apartment and things like that. That's why it totally reminds me the situation that we had in Ukraine 8 years ago. Why Ukraine was successful is because our people were dedicated, and because we did a lot of, let's say, strategic decisions were made back then. Again, we created that self-defense forces that were protecting people on streets from police and from thugs. We also messaged everybody, the international community, that it's a democratic protest, that we want to overthrow the dictator, and we want to have democratic elections in Ukraine after that, which basically happened. It's not like, we had some kind of force or party, or, that after this revolution came to power and became like a ruling power. Nothing like that. We literally had democratic elections. And basically, I think that that's exactly what Iranian resistance wants at this point. The problem is, again, it's really hard. I think it would be even hard to find speaker, because those VPNs are being blocked all the time. Today, after that fire in the prison, we know that there were shots. Something like 6 people were pronounced dead after that. There were shots, continuous shots. There was fire in the facility, and after that, Iranian authorities blocked again a big number of VPNs and messengers that were still functioning. So it's very, very hard to find connection with those people, with the resistance. And again, they don't even have access to information to understand what happens in their country, because they only have like official sources of information, which is basically Iranian controlled television and things like that. All the social media and again, messengers like WhatsApp, Telegram, they are blocked, and connection is on and off all the time.
Is this one of those situations like, I mean, I know you've had this sort of ongoing issue with Starlink and Elon Musk, continuing to support Starlink in Ukraine. He's turned around. He says he's going to use it. Is that one of those sort of situations we might see things change in the future, where more people are using systems like that can't essentially be blocked by government, or can it be blocked? I don't know.
So they can be blocked temporarily, I would say, by using radio electronic warfare machines that Russians have. I'm not sure if they have those in Iran. Probably they do, but I don't think that they will be using them against their citizens in cities, because
it has to be used tactically by the Russians. It's not sort of a big switch that the government have.
Yes, exactly. But currently they have, they have all the power to, stop the information, the communication from flowing to and from the country and between the people in the society. So Starlink could be very, very useful. I think that I heard that Musk was saying something about that, about providing, Iranians with Starlink, but I have no idea how he's going to implement this.
Good point. Good point. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any thoughts on anything? Should I keep going?
Yes, please.
Sure. Let's see what we've got here. We've got, in his UN address, Raisi also said Tehran will not return to the 2015 nuclear deal without guarantees from Washington that the deal would not be suspended again. Is that what's holding up the nuclear deal and its revival? Iran seeks some form of guarantee whereby the lifting of severe sanctions and resumed business activities by Western firms cannot be disrupted if a future U.S. president rescinds the agreement. Additionally, Iranian officials have adamantly declared that the concerns of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, about illicit nuclear material found at 3 sites is fraudulent and that the agency's investigation must close. Raisi reiterated that Iran won't seek to obtain a nuclear weapon. And how credible is that assertion? The Iranian government has long maintained that it is not seeking nuclear arms, but if Iran's nuclear program continues to grow in terms of size and sophistication, it will soon be able to manufacture a bomb if it chooses. The infrastructure needed for nuclear energy and atomic weapons are compatible and can be exploited for that purpose. The most recent IAEA report indicates that Iran continues to add advanced centrifuges to its inventory and accumulate more enriched uranium. The nuclear deal had limited the number and types of centrifuges Iran can operate to slow down the process of creating highly enriched uranium, which can be used in nuclear weapons. So that's not good as well. Seems how we've been talking about those risks lately. So,
Oh,
yeah. So not only do we have to worry about that, about the protests, we have to worry about this as well. Go ahead, Claire.
As you were reading that, it just, to me, it sounds a little ludicrous. Like they actually want a foregoing promise that it's never going to change before they even consider anything. And how could that ever possibly work? It means they can do whatever they want and the agreement doesn't have to change. Like, no.
Right.
And we know here in the States, that's never going to happen. A president can go back on these and change these. That's what they get to do. Each party changes things. They get to renegotiate. They try not to when they go through these big arms deals. They try not to, when they make these arrangements, go back on everything right away. But it can happen. Well, this is kind of like, before we'll even talk to you, you need to promise us everything. Like we get everything we want and there's no negotiation here. Like that doesn't sound right at all.
Exactly. That's half the problem.
and when they speak about getting their weaponry, when they speak about nuclear arms in general, is anybody else getting, I mean, am I naive or is anybody else getting the way they're phrasing everything? Like they're actually telling us who their compadres are, who they're going to be working with in regards to these. You listen to the way they're talking and how they're setting this up about not wanting to get into agreements. Who do you think they're working
with? I don't know.
I mean, am I being like, oh gosh, am I being like one of those like conspiracy? I'm not usually, but it just popped into my head. Okay, like tell us you love the color red without telling us you love the color red. Did I say that appropriately? I don't know.
Absolutely, you did.
Okay. Right.
Absolutely. Go ahead, operator Starsky.
So I just wanted to say that currently we can see a block of, let's call them baddies, right? That unite and do despicable things and preparing to do even more despicable things. And we can see, on the other hand, a club of decent people who understand that we gotta do something about it. We should not let those those villains to win over our club. So I would definitely want to call everybody to think what we can do about it, because everything is so much connected.
Yes.
Iran is connected to Russia. Russia is connected to Iran. They cooperate together. That basically club of villains, like they are fighting basically against the free world, against all of us. And one country, one regime is connected to another regime. So in the chat there was a call to remove all the dictators. I completely support that. We gotta stay united today, and I'm talking about all the countries, all the democratic countries. We gotta stay united today, otherwise they will win.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. And Christina S. adds to that and had a very perfect quote too. Voices and actions for change and peace must be louder than the evil in this world. And she is so right. That is an excellent quote. Thank you, Christina.
But why is it in this modern day we feel like we're up against a whole bunch of Bond villains? You know, it's just something James Bond he was talking about. It just seems weird in this modern day that we're still dealing with this, and it just doesn't get better. It seems to get worse.
It's that old us and them thing, right? Would you agree? It's although the bigger issue is equality, it does go down to us and them, and whether it be male and female, or this religion against that religion, or like red versus blue, or north versus south, or it's all this us and them thing that is just I think that everyone in power just seems to forget routinely, once you're voted into office, that you do actually work for the people, and compromise is what the people want. They don't care about left and right and up and down and this and that. The only way you get things done is compromise, and none of them are doing it. None of them anywhere. They, in all the countries, I mean ours especially, I can only speak of, but it's not happening. It's more about, like, there are no winners and losers. There's supposed to be compromise. That's how you get things done. Not worrying about a win or a loss. How about movement forward, progress for your people?
Exactly.
You know, pre-show we were talking about things that get us emotional, and Carl Sagan's speech of the pale blue dot, that just makes me cry every fucking time I listen to it, because you know he basically talks on this subject about, you know, it's just pointless, all these human squabbles that we have, and just like, you know, we could just turn it around and just move forward. But no, that's not what people don't want to do. That
no, they have to have their petty squabbles. You're right. And you know, but in the meantime, it's, you know, while they're having their squabbles, innocent people are dying, and you know, innocent people are suffering, and that's just so much bad. That's so bad. King Crew had an excellent comment. He said, "My aunt is in Iran right now, and as an Irani, I'm proud of the changes going on over there. Shame so many had to lose their lives." Thank you, King, and my heart and my thoughts are with you. Thank you.
Think about Israel. Think about Iran is that not so much of what is happening there, not so much is, you know, connected with religion whatsoever. It's rather about corruption, huge corruption, stealing money from citizens, poverty, and again, all the people want Khamenei to go, but they cannot massively support those protesters because, first of all, they're afraid. Second, protesters cannot tell about their ideas, their even like position, right? Because they cannot basically communicate inside of Iran. So it's all about the communication. It's all about propaganda again. I heard what they were talking about on the TV. It's crazy. They continue blaming like America, external powers, and things like that. It's a mess.
Very much
Well-
so.
Well, aren't they just like blaming America because the sanctions have been put upon them because of the things they're doing? I mean, it's also like cyclic. It's backward thinking. It's like, you know, if they weren't nasty people, they wouldn't have the sanctions, and then they wouldn't be blaming America. They'd be celebrating
Right.
America and working with America. You know, it's
Right. And everybody would be perfectly fine, and we'd all be celebrating each other and helping hold
Yeah.
each other up. It's
yeah.
It's not like the sanctions were put in place without exactly why and what you did
Right.
as to why it was done. Like, and you could work on that. Like, if you don't like it,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
and we can't help it. We are a capitalist country, and we are going to be able to affect markets that way, and that is part of the power of the democracy behind it. So that's why I agree with Starsky that you got to put that behind, and everybody united in the equality and the justice end of it for democracy, and make a difference, because you know they don't want to change. They just want to say we're all evil for doing what we're doing, but they don't want to look at what they're doing.
exactly. And again, it's that whole us versus them, like you said before. It's them versus the West, which to them means evil. You know, it's just So
if you want your religion and your politics to be respected and to hear that side of it, or try not shooting people in the back and killing kids. In that would work. Like conversations could happen, But approaching the dissension this way is it doesn't make conversations actually possible. Actually, because you got to deal with all of that and the uprisal of it, and your own people that are saying enough. Like, that's too much.
Exactly. That's it right there. Michael Castrian had a good comment too. All countries should dismantle all nuclear bombs. We're in the 21st century. And he says it won't happen because no one trusts anyone else. But it's like, I've got a bigger stick than you have. It's that, So that's also an interesting take as well. So thank you for that. And Liam Wakefield said, listening to the Iranian government whine about how unfair things are is like listening to Daryl Brooks. I'm not sure who that is.
Oh gosh, it's a law case. It's going. Is he representing himself or something? But it actually is pretty hysterical what's going on over there. Yeah, he's everything's everybody else's fault. Nothing's his fault. Although he did everything, but
And Johan Janssen said a very good thing too. Democracy starts at the individual. Democracy is never given. You have to fight for it all the time. And I think that's it. Exactly. Very well said. Very, very well said. Thank you. And that's true as well. So
do you want the next? Oh, sorry, Starsky.
Yeah, go ahead, Starsky.
Yeah, I wanted to say I agree on that. You definitely gotta fight for democracy, and it's a very, I would say, good sign that people had this uprising finally to fight for their rights. The question is, can they make it? Because, for example, Ukrainians could share all their experience of this revolution that was successful, by the way, unlike in Russia and Belarus, because we managed to finish what we started, and we managed to banish our dictator. He fled. A lot of his thugs fled to Russia as well. So we could share all of our experience with those guys, tell them what worked, what didn't work. The problem is we don't even know what they need at this point. Some of Iranian resistance are trying to, develop some kind of communication to inform people what happens. I have literally no idea what they're trying to do. Probably like print some kind of like like a newspaper or
Mhm.
things like that. So yeah, that's like the biggest problem, because if you lose communications, is bad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Should we bring up the next one, please, Dick?
Sure.
And thank you very much. This one is from France 24, and this links everything all together. And it says, has Iran ruined its nuclear deal chances with violent crackdown? Um, Iranian authorities' brutal repression of protests over the death of Mahsa Amini has put the parties in the Iran nuclear talks in a delicate position as they condemn Tehran's actions while trying to negotiate on a separate issue. The Iranian state has clamped down fiercely on the wave of popular anger over the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini at the hands of the morality police on September 16th, arresting journalists, targeting student demonstrators, and using live ammunition. The clampdown has further complicated the vexed talks between Iran and the great powers, the US informally, France, the UK, Germany, Russia, and China over Tehran's nuclear ambitions. Negotiations have already stalled after a year and a half of diplomacy. Many Western countries have urged Tehran to respect human rights amid the protests following Amini's death. France, for example, called for EU-wide sanctions against those responsible for the repression that has killed more than 100 people, according to Norway-based NGO Iran Human Rights. So it's going to ruin their chances of a deal as well, because now they're calling for even more sanctions. They're not going to get what they want, so things might come to a stalemate because of the way they treat their people. So, does anybody have any thoughts so far on this?
Not a winning strategy.
Yeah, I don't see it going in their favor at all. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, absolutely. And the like, speaking from my experience, the worst thing that you face when you are protesting and fighting in your country during a revolution, it's like you must understand that nobody is going to help you physically, because you have to do it yourself. It's your country, and you have to bring everything to order here and change this ruling regime yourself. There will be no international volunteers who will arrive and stand next to you, because it's your own country. Everything depends on yourself. And again, that's why it makes me very sad, because the only way to change violent regime is through violence, unfortunately. Any other way won't work. Democratic peaceful protests won't work. We can see that Iranians try to fight, which is again a good sign, and I only hope that they will have enough force and they will manage to bring those masses of people to support them, like we did in Ukraine. Because we did, I don't remember that we had our social media shut down, for example. Everything was working, and that's the reason, for example, why when in December police tried to storm our tent camp in the center of city. During just 1 hour, all the Kiev rose up, and all the people of Kiev were on the streets, and they didn't let police do that. So I only hope that they will have this support of masses, and basically, like, global internal strike is the only thing that can help, because they were saying that they came up with this idea not to buy or sell things for a while in Iran. That's what is going on there at this point, but it must be massive. It must involve like factories, like big, manufacturers and stuff like that. Everything should be, closed. Everybody must strike, and it will help because it helped us as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Shall I keep going?
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Sure. So France's prudent style. In light of what's been going on in Iran, the parties engaged in the nuclear talks are less keen to pursue a renewed deal at all costs, said David Rigolet-Rose, a Middle East specialist at the IRIS think tank in Paris. And for its part, the regime is hardening its stance in response to the protests and is now even less inclined to make any compromise with international powers that might suggest weakness. So it seems unlikely that Iran will change its stance towards the West in the nuclear talks. Western powers involved in the talks can bring up human rights, and we've seen that with the sanctions the Europeans and the U.S. have announced, Rigolet-Rose went on. But human rights are not one of the issues at stake in the agreement itself. Human rights are extremely important, but if the negotiators bring it into the mix, they're not going to get an agreement, said Thierry Coville, an Iran analyst also at IRIS. What's more, the Islamic Republic will class it as an interference and say it's evidence that the protests are part of a foreign plot. Tehran is already trying to frame the unrest in these terms, with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei claiming on Monday that the riots were fomented by the U.S. and Israel and not organized by ordinary Iranians. After the French Foreign Ministry condemned the brutal repression of Iranian protesters, Paris had its chargé d'affaires summoned for addressing down in Tehran last week. While announcing this, Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna said on Tuesday that Iran regarded a reminder of the fundamental principles of human rights as a form of interference and decided to say so to our embassy there. France doesn't want to make an already tragic situation even worse, Rigolet-Rose said. It doesn't want to give Tehran a pretext to justify conspiratorial allegations about supposed international interference. It's just not the French government it's not just the French government in a difficult position. With the U.S. midterms coming up on November 8th, it is difficult for President Joe Biden to commit to a nuclear agreement with a country that does not respect human rights, Coville said. So that's also interesting, too. And I can understand why they might not want to bring those into the deal. But at the same time, these things do need to be addressed. What does anybody else think?
Well, to have that kind of power at your disposal demands respect for humanity as a whole. So I wouldn't want them to have it.
No.
Right.
No. I would have to say that, keep trying the diplomacy, but any deal is off the table right now until they.
That would be prudent, because you really, like you said, to have that kind of power and then not even have the control enough to be able to have discourse amongst your own people right now on issues is not good. Not good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because is that what they're going to do? They're just going to push buttons, like, solve problems, push buttons, solve problems. Like that never works. That never
works. Exactly. King Crew made an interesting comment. He says people have lost their lives to get pics and vids out to the world. That's why we're not getting the coverage.
And that's the true heroes, though. Like the people that are on the ground that actually find it that important that it needs to get out and are actively going against, like we said, life and death, to get information out, to try to share information amongst themselves, to say how it really is. It's the scary part. You feel your heart just breaks for them, and for those that wish they could, but have families and don't feel like they should put them at risk. Like I can understand how the people themselves are so torn and heartbroken over everything.
It kind of goes back to what Starsky was just saying a few minutes ago about how the people within their own country can force the regime change, just by literally shutting down the country by their own actions or non-action, not going to work, not doing all the things that keep the country running. But then also at the same time you do that, then you have panic and then, rioting and, it's I just can't imagine just can't imagine living like that. Just can't see that happening in Britain. Although just push us over the edge, and I'm sure it would be in the same situation, but something would happen. But it must be terrifying. But like you say, anybody who resists, they're thinking about, they have to start thinking about their own family. They'll go after them, and
that's exactly it.
Yeah. How do you successfully create a revolution like that?
Well,
I know.
This is what they're hoping. This is why they're approaching it in such a terroristic nature and stopping all communication between other people, because they know that people are going to rise up and organize. And so they're doing everything they can to make the consequences life and death. So there's really no choice. You got to live or you're going to die. Like, how strong do you feel about it? And to stop the communication, so you cannot organize any peaceful type protest or something that could actually make a difference and be world known, by taking down the internet, by keeping the information coming in reduced, by keeping the information coming out to none.
Absolutely.
That's all in their favor. And it all is just if it was being done to them, if the political party, they would be calling terrorists. They would be calling us bullies, terrorists, like putting might against right and all that other stuff. They'd be singing a whole different tune, but they're using these tactics because they're effective, but
exactly.
I mean, I just want to say, it's fascinating having Starsky here with his insight, because let's face it, he's lived through it. He's been there. He's seen it, and he's seen how things can change. And the words coming out from his mouth, are very poignant. And pity more people in Iran can't listen to him on this show, because we've only got 69 people watching. I don't think Iran's watching. I think we've been blocked.
I think we've been blocked by Iran, probably. Yeah. But it would be. Western, so I think if there were more, like, countries are coming out and speaking against. Leaders are coming out and speaking against what's happening, but what they need is actual real support for the people coming forward, and then maybe they will feel strong enough to fight against, like Starsky said, like those big movements can happen, but they have to feel like the world is on their side, because obviously their country isn't, right?
Well, how could we do that? How, in what way? Airdrop stuff into them, and what? We can't do that. We get shot down.
I can say from our experience, for example, because when we were protesting in Ukraine, basically we had a lot of guests at Maidan in Kiev. We had a lot of guests from other countries. So we we had like headquarters in Kiev City Hall, which was captured by protesters, and we were there. And there were like multiple different flags inside. Those flags were brought by people from other countries. There was like Israel, Italy, the US, the UK, and Ireland, and different flags. But the main thing was that we would often receive those words of support from other countries that would basically say, guys, we support what you do. Unfortunately, we cannot help you like physically, but if you are victorious, we'll do everything we can to help you to rebuild your country and do all kinds of reforms that you dream about and stuff like that. That was very supportive, because at this point, so one of the illusions that Iranians have, that I hear a lot, especially from those protesting, right? They say that they all fear that if they remove Khamenei, America will come and kill them for oil. and we gotta convince them
Well,
that
they might.
That's not the
we
case.
gotta convince them that the world will be supporting them and helping them if they are victorious and if they can remove their dictator. So that's one of the things that we can do. And but in order to be able to help them, we gotta find some kind of channel of communication with them, because they cannot even watch YouTube. It was blocked. It was blocked in Iran, so you had to use VPN to see videos. But now it's like completely blocked because you cannot even use VPN.
Pigeons. Let's get lots of pigeons.
Yeah, we have a bunch of genetically modified those.
And they can fly for thousands of miles.
They each carry a byte, and then you can reconstruct the message when you get about 12,000 pigeons.
Right.
Well, no. You just get pigeons. You just get pigeons to watch a YouTube video, learn it off by heart, and send them over, and they can just like tweet it. Hang on, that's Twitter. Hang on, wrong format.
I don't know. I'm getting goosebumps. It sounds more like a Charlie Brooker episode of Black Mirror you just wrote. Like, this cool.
There we go. Yeah. And sad
I'm sorry to bring the silliness into it.
Oh no, that's no.
I did it again. I'm sorry. Spank me later.
Ooh. No, it's good because no, because it's good because it helps lighten up the situation because it is heavy and it is a very heavy topic and you feel for these people and you know you have massive empathy for them. So no, and it was appropriate. So
serious hat on.
Thank you for now.
Oh, okay. Serious hat on then. You know, post-war, they came up with the United Nations. What the fuck are they for? What is the point of the United Nations? What do they? Why does it even exist when this sort of stuff is going on? The United Nations, wasn't that supposed to be an organization to unite us in some kind of way, in some kind of field, and just so things like this didn't happen? Isn't that what the United Nations was for? Am I missing something?
No, I thought so too,
Not really.
DK. But lately, it's more like an after-fact analysis of what you should have done instead of getting involved while it's going on and stopping it. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, a bunch of old farts in an old room with hindsight. Yeah, great.
Right.
Which is always perfect vision, right? Hindsight's perfect vision. Like you can analyze everything out. Well, no. Yeah.
DK, I think that they should rename United Nations to just nations. Because that's what it is. Everybody think about his ass. The organization was created in order to avoid threats and make sure that its members inside of this organization will never fight against each other. And they made a bunch of rules, but everybody is so obsessed of this egoism and thinking about himself only that we should just freaking rename them to nations. There's no unity.
Well, they should just put up some kind of a kickboxing arena, the United Nations Forum, and just just smash it out. I mean, that's what it seems to got to this point, because United Nations is doing fuck all for anybody, and I don't understand why we still have it.
Because I'm a former policeman, I totally support this idea of having some kind of bald dude there in their United Nations office who would beat them with the stick sometime, because they deserve it.
Sometimes the verbal fussing that they do is sometimes what is needed. Definitely diplomacy. It really at one time it really was an amazing organization.
It did. Look at all of the things they put in place as far as war crimes and things like that, and people have to be justified in what they do, and the way to do things when you have disagreements. But like all organizations, after a while they just fall to the wayside. They forget their original mission, or they're not like taking it farther or growing with how things are changing. And many of these organizations become useless because of the size of them and just trying everybody to get along instead of uniting on a mission, keeping that mission updated. Everybody knows in business and in any organization, you forget with the day-to-day transactions that your mission statement is the most important thing that you have, and staying on it and keeping it updated. But it is the number one thing that fails in organizations, even whether they be charitable or political and or business. It's the number one failure is not staying on that, not representing it well, not staying on it, not keeping it updated, you know.
Well, I vote for Starsky to be in charge of the United Nations with a big stick. And a big naughty step.
I can be like a Punisher, used from.
There we go.
Oh, don't you? Yeah, I've been watching.
Officially employed in the United Nations to, but I noticed one commentary here that the person was commenting from Iran. He said that they're listening to us, and he asked us to support them. Buddy, we need some kind of contact with you. We need some kind of speaker on the ground, and preferably if you could pass our messages to the resistance as well, because I totally feel you. I totally feel what happens in Iran, because I went through the same, and our people went through the same situation, and we would like to help you however we can, even with the organization of this protest, because we have huge experience, and in Ukraine it worked. It was successful, so we can help you definitely.
I love the fact that Starsky is here with all the trouble that he's going through and his country's going through. He's here to support other people in another country. I mean, that's
something to it.
I like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You've got to look at that with what it is and just tip your hat off to Starsky. I mean,
that's integrity and fortitude right there. Like,
guys,
absolutely.
I totally feel for those people because again, we have the same situation, and I can tell you this: civilization was able to survive not because we were good at inventing things. It was because we were able to help each other and support each other, and that's why we gotta do the same and help whoever requires this help.
Absolutely. We can all aspire to be, like that, and it would bring, humanity back, I think. We have a wonderful super chat here from Sam Williams for New Zealand, $89.99. Thank you so much, Sam. She says, can't stay because work, but shout out to you all for talking about important topics like this. I can only hope those of us who were privileged to never have to become martyrs for the sake of our countries will step up and do our part for the sake of humanity. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you. That's brilliant. And that's perfect. That's exactly it. It's humanity that we need to worry about. Human rights are the most important thing, and we're not following it right now. So thank you, Sam. Thank you for your support.
I mean, if the only thing we can do is talk about it, so it's in your forefront of your mind when you wake up the next day and you're making some toast and you're thinking, oh, isn't it lucky I live in a nice free world? And then you're suddenly reminded about the show you watched last night with Aimee talking about the serious shit that's happening around the world. If that's all we do, there's a start. We'd like to do more.
Yeah. I agree with that, DK. That happened the other day when I went to pick up some coffee beans. I went in and someone answered like, oh, what's some, it was a girl I talk to all the time, behind the counter. And she said, what have you been up to lately? I said, well, I've just been researching a little bit about Iran. And she said, Iran? Oh, gosh, somebody will talk to me about Iran. You got a minute? And we had a little conversation over on the side. And the next thing you know, the next table comes over and started talking about it.
Oh, wow.
They said, nobody wants to talk about it. I said, please just talk about it. Like, if they don't, you should
have got your phone out and gone live there and there.
Yeah, no, I'm not no. But no, it was like, to me, that was warming. Like, you think your voice doesn't matter. We are one in millions and millions and millions of people. But I'm telling you, like, you never know who's hearing you. You never know who you're reaching, who you're resonating with. So, like, if you have you want to do good about it, then don't be afraid to speak about it. If you have convictions, I don't mean trample people. I don't mean push people around with your opinion. What I mean is like open up those conversations to hear what other people have to say about it and get those conversations going. Get the real information out there, because misinformation is deadly, period.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
We saw that during the pandemic, how deadly misinformation can be, and that it's bad. But yes, definitely, even just to say, so, Iran, what do you think about it? You know, sometimes even just that can spark a conversation, and you'd be surprised at how many people want to know and hear about it.
Are you hearing these debunker channels? You're wasting your time talking about fucking people like Chile or whoever he is, and the flat Earth and stuff like that. Stop wasting your time with that shit.
Get on the real issues, right, DK?
Get on the real stuff. Yeah, fucking hell, sort it out.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And end the bloviation. Yes. Start a campaign. How many flat earthers just went and looked up that word? What do you think, like right now?
Oh God, they probably do.
No, they don't. They're not very good with Google. Very selective.
And how many own a dictionary? I don't know.
Yeah, their attempt at spelling it was so bad there was not even a suggestion to get it right.
Flat earthers in education are just two entirely different ends of the spectrum.
It's like
opposing forces.
Exactly.
Well, it's probably got to do something to do with the educational sanctions we've been putting out to flat earthers. So yeah, they can't do education.
Exactly. So that's why we talk about these things too on this show. That's why I wanted to do these. I wanted to shine a light on this stuff, you know, things like news stories like this, you know, anything that we see going on, like even if it, you know, cults, I want to cover those again. These things need to come out into the light, because there are some issues, recent events that have happened that make things seem rather cult-like. 4chan. I didn't say that out loud. Oops. But, you know, things like that, you know, I want to bring these, you know, to the light so we can talk about these things, because they do need to be discussed. The more you talk about them, the more you know, and knowledge is power. So we kind of need to do that.
That's one of my favorite sayings, knowledge is power. Because this is the misinformation. And like you, Aimee, I'm surprised that there's not more talking on YouTube or other platforms about it. Like, I don't see it on many of the platforms. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm not seeing a lot, unless it's a news article coming in from Reuters or, you know, the major, and I'm talking worldwide major ones, not even the light ones like ABC, NBC, CBS. Like, they're all ignoring it. It's like, the majors like CNN, the bigger ones, the worldwide, like the, you know, the Reuters and out there, and like you said, the French, France 24, any of those, the AP.
Yep.
But
AP.
everybody else is ignoring it. It just like, I don't know if that's purposeful, or they just feel like there's not enough actual hook because they don't have a live person or, like, you know, something to tell them. I don't know.
I think most people just because they're cozy in their own life, they don't have to worry about it. To be honest with you,
I think it's because, you know, the again, of the lack of communication. You can only imagine that those guys are there absolutely alone, without any support from outside. And again, there's no nothing like united front that would support them. Nothing like that. That's why we gotta do everything we can to unite more people around this idea of supporting protesters in Iran, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I agree with that opinion. Absolutely.
Yep.
Aimee, did you want me to bring up that 2-track diplomacy and you can get through a little bit more of that one?
Yes, please.
Okay. I cut the top off. Hold on. There we go.
That's okay. It's all good. So we've got 2-track diplomacy. So the White House's diplomacy towards Iran is operating on 2 different levels. On the one hand, Biden announced on Monday new sanctions against the perpetrators of the repression. On the other hand, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre hastened to add that Washington could both condemn the crackdown and participate in nuclear diplomacy with Iran. Even at the height of the Cold War, as President Reagan was calling the Soviet Union an evil empire, he was also engaged in arms control talks because he knew that on one hand, we had to push back vigorously against the repression of the Soviet Union, Jean-Pierre said. At the same time, we had to protect and defend the security of ourselves, our allies, and our partners. Iran agreed in August to drop its demand that the U.S. remove the Revolutionary Guard Corps from its blacklist of terrorist organizations, demonstrating that Tehran is flexible, at least up to a point. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani suggested on Monday a softening of Tehran's stance, announcing that Iran and the U.S. exchanged messages on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York in mid-September, using the EU's diplomatic coordinator for Iran, Enrique Mora, and other senior officials as intermediaries. There is still a possibility and a chance to resume the implementation of the nuclear deal, Mora said. Efforts are underway with the European coordinator and other mediators, including the foreign ministries of neighboring countries, to exchange messages to reach an agreement. If the other side, particularly the U.S. government, shows political will, it is possible that a deal will be concluded in a short period, he added. Tehran released in October one Iranian-American dual citizen, Bakir Namazi, a former provincial governor under the Shah, and his son Siamak, both of whom were arrested in 2015. A medical requirement motivated the decision, according to the U.S. State Department, while the Islamic Republic News Agency said it was linked to the release of about $7 billion of Iranian funds blocked abroad. Iran was taking a prudent step backwards in releasing these two detainees, Coville said. Current events are pushing Tehran to be flexible on the diplomatic front to try to get an agreement.
$7 billion's a lot of cabbage. Wow.
That is a lot of cabbage. Yes. Absolutely. Yep. So what do we all think of that one? Any thoughts on it?
The deeper it goes into this article, the more you can see that politically, this is just suicide, and the only way is going to be a reform at the top or the top reforms. But it's kind of a no way out situation now.
It really is, and it really shows the importance of diplomacy. That's one of the things that I do look for in a president or in any person that I'm trying to vote for. Diplomacy is huge. It's how you get places. It's how you get things done. That's how you get your compromises that you need. And communication. If they have great communication skills and can be diplomatic to anybody and talk to anybody and treat people with respect, those are the people I vote for. That's how I vote. That's one of the issues that comes up. Of course, if their stances on other things are important as well. But this is huge. This is why, we need skilled diplomats.
It's interesting you say that because people get all frustrated and up in arms if one politician is talking to another politician who is, a frightful, horrible git. And you shouldn't be talking to them. No, you should be talking to them more.
More. Yes,
Yeah.
It should be priority to talk to these people to get things done.
Exactly.
Reaching across the aisle is not a bad thing. It's a good thing because then people start working together and we start fixing the crap that's happening this.
Isolating them and distancing them is the worst thing you can possibly do.
You're evil because you're this part of this group. You're evil because you're part of that party. No.
Yeah, the thing is, as a diplomat, you can go and cross and talk to someone and say, look, you're an absolute cunt, but I'm going to talk to you anyway, and this is what we think.
Right. Let's hash out a deal on something.
Yeah, let's start from there and work our way up from the gutter.
Exactly. So there we go. But I like that. You're being a right dick. So, but I'm going to talk to you anyway. That's really good.
Yes, that's why I got kicked out of the UN.
For calling you the person you're supposed to negotiate with.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I love it.
Oh, okay. I'll shut up again. You get back to the serious stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's so bad. So anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I would like to say a
Okay.
couple of words.
Yeah.
So, of course, if the resistance wants to remove this dictator, if they want to have those democratic elections of the new government to make this state running and working and functioning, there must be mechanisms. So, for example, in Ukraine, we had representatives of our protest that would negotiate directly with our former president slash dictator and his team, and demand different things. So probably they need something like that as well, and communicate directly with Khamenei,
Mhm.
if it's possible, which I doubt, of course, because again, from what we know, he is like disappearing and appearing in different places because he's afraid and stuff. Like when we removed our dictator, he ran away. So the state was, the country was in the state of like coma because nothing works and there's no government, nothing like that. So we had temporary government that would keep the state running until we elected a new parliament and new president.
Excellent.
So those things that they gotta consider right now, and I think they should already develop the ways of literally overthrowing their dictator and thinking on how to keep their country running, their factories, their plants running physically, before they are able to reform their government and their
Exactly. Thank you so much. We got a super chat in too from David Oliver. Thank you so much, David, for £5 sterling. Says, would you or could you call Vladolf Putler a megalomaniac? That is a very good question. What say ye, everybody?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Can we give him a grub muffin so we can have a little bit of a lighter moment? We can kind of
Oh,
break up the show a little bit that way, please.
I hope the button works. Let's see here. Grubby dance.
Grubby, please.
No, it's not going to work. Hold on. Okay.
Aw.
I can build it manually in the background real quick here. So here, let me bring them up. And
There we go.
Just get on camera. They can do it a little bigger.
There we go.
There we go.
And oh yeah, there's supposed to be the scream at the end. Where is it?
Right. Well, actually, broken is actually quite funny.
Oh, that was so sad, but oh well.
Yes. That was funny. I like that. Ugly German truth. Face the truth. Putin is a crime against humanity, regardless if you spell it Canadian or Russian, or if you pronounce it. I have to watch it because it's so rude to call him the other word. I can't even say it. Well, let's just say it. If I pronounce it the way it looks, I would be calling him a garden implement. So, and anybody who knows me will know that I won't say those words very often, especially when there's someone. Yes, not often. So yes, there's that.
Oh, it's funny.
Yes, thank you, everybody. So, but yeah, definitely. Should we continue with that article?
Here we go.
Thank you. Or did you have something to say, Claire? I'm sorry.
No, I said please continue.
Oh,
Like,
okay,
I wanna hear
sure.
you.
Thank you. Okay, the obstructionist approach. Okay, nevertheless, obstacles stand in the way of a renewed deal, Rigollet Rose said. There might be compromises on the margin when it comes to diplomacy over the hostages and releasing funds under sequestration, but that won't allow an agreement to be signed. Even before the protest over Mahsa Amini's death, Iran was taking an obstructionist approach overall, he added. At the same time, France, the UK, and Germany have lost patience with Iran over its accelerating nuclear program, even if the three European powers were still keen to secure a deal until recently. Indeed, the Islamic Republic has further increased its stockpile of enriched uranium to 60%, close to weapons grade, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA's latest report. Just a bit more enrichment would give Iran enough to make an atomic bomb. This is a concern, seeing as Iran doesn't want to give the IAEA an answer about the presence of anthropogenic uranium found at three undeclared sensitive sites, Madhuban, Varamin, and Turkuzabad, Rigollet Rose said. Arguing that an agreement is impossible as things stand. The nuclear watchdog said in May that Iran has not given satisfactory answers about those three sites. And U.S. politics presents an obstacle to an agreement. Iranian negotiators are demanding that Biden agree to that any new deal be respected into the future, even if he loses the 2024 presidential election. But it is simply impossible for a U.S. president to sign off on that because the nature of U.S. institutions does not allow it, as Rigollet Rose put it. Biden can't commit himself legally to that for one reason. The Iran deal is an agreement rather than a treaty, he continued. The U.S. Congress must give the green light to any international treaties Washington signs. But there's never going to be a sufficient majority for this to happen. Instead of thinking about resurrecting the 2015 deal, Rigollet Rose concluded, Western powers should focus on managing the fallout from the end of the agreement, as the accord has been seen as hollow since ex-U.S. President Donald Trump withdrew in 2018. Iran is now a country on the nuclear threshold. They are well aware that if they want to make a nuclear bomb, they've got enough uranium enriched to a high level and have the kind of know-how you can't really get rid of, even if it doesn't seem to be the case that they've made the political decision to build one for now. So there's that.
That's a scary thought. I mean, that basically at the end says they're pretty much ready. And so we're going to need some diplomatic action because, I don't want them to have that.
Nobody wants them to have that.
Yeah, not without being at a table where people are talking about things instead of just, throwing insults across borders.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
The thing is that a lot of the stuff you've been bringing up, the news stories, is all about the nuclear power, everything nuclear is on the table. But surely that's not what the central issue with Iran is going on. That's only like an international thing that's causing, creating sanctions and all that sort of stuff. But what's happening in Iran itself, it just goes beyond that because the way they're treating their people and throwing them to poverty, and like Starsky was saying, they're taking their money. I mean, it's the nuclear side of things is almost like a secondary story to it all, isn't it?
But it could be also part of what's exacerbating everything that's going on. Like the taking of everybody's money is because of the sanctions. So they're lacking money coming in. They're lacking all of those Western businesses that would come in and all of the tax revenues from that. So plus,
you think it's just like it's something that's just closing the doors to just being humane. I don't know.
I think so. I think it's applying pressure to them, so they're getting even more. They're having even a more hardline stance, like they're doubling down and things like that. So I think, and plus, with the threat of nuclear weapons on the table, if you look at that too, it's making everybody stand back and stand off from what they're doing as far as the human rights abuses are going. So I can see where it's kind of all intertwined and linked together. So That's what I'm thinking.
Mm.
Any thoughts on that? And anything we've read so far?
I have to agree. I mean, it's just, it's really concerning, especially with the statements before in the other article about how they want their cake and eat it too. Like, tell us up front that you're never going to back out of any deal and you're not going to change anything or do sanctions if we do something wrong. And they kind of set it up that they really don't want to negotiate.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. So, and like Nicholas Suter said, the abuses are bad. They're hugely bad, and it's very much so. It's not good at all. Yeah. So, all right. So we have the next one, please, Dick. Should we go with that? All right. Thank you. We'll get that up and going.
Let me get it in its little reader mode here. There we go.
Sure. Thank you. So the next one is the Iran. Yep. Thank you very much. And here we go. 1 month after Mahsa Amini's arrest, Iran protests deaths top 100. So on September 13th, yeah, that's really not good. It shows you how badly they're cracking down on these people.
I'm sure it's more than that.
I think
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, this is like scratching the surface, I think. So I think it's probably far more than this that we're not hearing about. On September 13th, Mahsa Amini was arrested by Iran's morality police in Tehran for allegedly breaching the country's severe dress code for women. Days later, the 22-year-old Iranian woman died in custody, triggering mass protests and crackdowns that have claimed more than 100 lives, according to a human rights group. The discontent has spread, posing a serious challenge to the Islamic Republic. The circumstances surrounding Amini's death in custody remain vague, with her family and Iranian authorities offering contradictory versions. The 22-year-old Iranian woman died on September 16th, 3 days after her arrest by Iran's notorious morality police for an alleged breach of the Islamic Republic's strict dress code for women. An official Iranian forensic investigation found Amini had died of a long-standing illness rather than reported beatings. Her family has denied the official version, stressing that their daughter was in perfect health and had died of a violent blow to the head. They filed a complaint against security officers involved in her arrest and detention. Amini's death sparked mass protests spearheaded by women taking to the streets chanting "Women, Life, Freedom." Zan Zendegi Azadi is what it says. Young women, university students, and even schoolgirls have since taken off their hijabs and faced off with security forces in the biggest wave of social unrest to grip Iran in almost 3 years. At least 108 people, including, get this, 28 children, have been killed and hundreds more detained and held mostly in adult prisons, according to human rights groups. The unrest has been particularly marked in Amini's western home province of Kurdistan, as well as in the southeastern city of Zahedan, where demonstrations have erupted against a police officer accused of rape in a separate case. Raisi accuses U.S. of seeking to destabilize Iran. Yeah. Gunshots were fired as Iranian security forces confronted protesters in the cities of Isfahan and Karaj and in Amini's hometown, Saqqez, in videos shared by 2 Norway-based human rights organizations. "Death to the dictator," shouted female students who had defiantly taken off the mandatory hijab headscarves as they had marched down a Tehran street in a video verified by AFP. Shots were heard in Isfahan amid the nationwide protests and strikes. Iran Human Rights said of a video it tweeted, and in Saqqez, according to the Kurdish rights group Henga, which reported that later the security forces fled. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi on Thursday accused the U.S. of resorting to a policy of destabilization against the Islamic Republic. In his address to the summit of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia in Kazakhstan, Raisi tried to frame the protests as a Western plot. Following the failure of America in militarization and sanctions, Washington and its allies have resorted to the failed policy of destabilization, he said. Raisi's comments come a day after Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei accused Iran's enemies of stoking street riots. The actions of the enemy, such as propaganda trying to influence minds, creating excitement, encouraging, and even teaching the manufacture of incendiary devices, are now completely clear, he said. The ISNA news agency reported a heavy security presence in the capital and demonstrations, including at Tehran University, where police intervened to restore order without resorting to violence. And those were in quotes. Any thoughts so far?
Horrible reports.
Horrible reports, and then to blame America for what they're doing in the streets, like I don't get it.
I know.
Yeah, nice shout there. You have to you defeat tyranny by letting them act like tyrants publicly, and that's exactly what happened in Ukraine. So, for example, there were times when nothing would happen for like weeks, because our dictator expected for this protest to just, dissolve by itself. And it didn't help him much, again, because we had this huge information flow, like going from Ukraine through all the world, and it was very, very annoying for him. That's why he would try to bring police from time to time in order to storm the protesters, and we would fight back. They would bring like armored vehicles. We would set them on fire with Molotovs and stuff like that. Then they would bring that special force police that used rubber bullets and live ammo as well, and they were killing protesters. That would fuel protest again even more. So the like in this protest, the crucial part of it was that the dictator and his regime was making plenty of mistakes that would never be allowed to be made in a democratic society, and those mistakes basically were nails in his coffin, basically. So that's what I see happening there as well, with the only difference of this huge informational blockade that we see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Should I keep going?
Good thing. Yeah.
Well,
Here, I'll scroll it back a bit because I have a picture.
I was just going to point out something in the chat there.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to bastardize it and get it wrong because I can't scroll back and find it. But yeah, it's kind of like interesting that the morality police arrested a woman because she wasn't wearing the right headdress, and then beat her up in her prison cell. So where's the morality police for the morality police?
Exactly.
That's it right there. Where are the checks and balances for that? Exactly. And the whole thing is just so weird. And somebody had said because, the hair is showing because men can't control themselves because they see hair.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that last week. Yeah.
Which makes it the men's problem. This is just such a fucked up thing.
It is. It's a power thing. It's
Hey, Dawson, you'd drive them wild if you went over there.
All that hair.
All that hair. And you're such a pretty girl with lovely long legs.
Jesus.
Oh my God. Exactly. All right. So I'll continue on with this one. Thank you.
I think you're better, Aimee.
I think so, before I start laughing at you because you're silly. But thank you. It does help keep it lighter, because if not, I'd probably be sitting here sobbing. So we don't want that again. I've already done that today over a silly show. So we've got a bloody crackdown feared. It says activists in Tehran have called for protesters to turn out in solidarity with the people of Sanandaj and the heroic people of Zahedan. We don't want spectators. Come and join us. A group of mainly young women outside Tehran's Azad University sang in IHR footage verified by AFP. A man who asked not to be identified told the BBC, "The atmosphere is quite tense, and yet it is exciting. People are hopeful this time, and we hope that a real change is just around the corner. I don't think people are willing to give up this time." you can hear some sort of protest everywhere almost every night. That feels good. That feels really good. IHR said the security forces had so far killed at least 108 people and at least another 93 people in Zahedan, while warning of an impending bloody crackdown in Kurdistan. It also said workers have joined protest strikes this week at the Azulia petrochemical plant in the southwest, Abadan in the west, and Bushahir in the south. In its widening crackdown, Iran has blocked access to social media, including Instagram and WhatsApp, and launched a campaign of mass arrests. So,
Wow.
and people are feeling heartened by people joining in, and you can hear it everywhere, they said. So people are rising up.
It's
Hopefully-
awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to know that workers joined protests, and this may spread.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because again, they cannot block telephones.
Mhm.
On the other hand, they can listen to what people say on telephones. But it's great that enterprises join the protest. I hope that there will be more of them, and eventually it would lead to overthrowing this regime.
We can only hope. We can only hope for these poor people. They've had enough.
It sort of goes back to what you were saying earlier, so. But these people, they're not just like protesting, coming out there. Oh, we're not happy. It's the tide is tipping to a point where we're not just complaining anymore. We are fucking coming for you, and we are coming for your regime, and we are not going to sit back anymore. I mean, there must be a point where people do like protest and say, oh no, we don't like this. But then there will be a point where they just go over the brink and just start, a proper revolt and a proper. I don't know how they do it, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gibbering now. Starsky, help me out.
No, You're fine.
No, I agree with you, because their messages changed from stop abusing women to Khamenei, you gotta freaking go, or else, So I'm glad that this, that people keep their morale in good shape, and that they're hopeful that they will be successful this time. They cannot step back. They cannot do that, because what happens to them.
Does this have to start becoming an armed revolt as far as the people are concerned?
So there's a couple of threats here. First of all, if this revolt turns into a global revolution inside of Iran, there might be such thing as the one that happened here. So in Ukraine, there were Russian policemen from their special force police, specifically snipers, involved into shooting protesters, because Ukrainian snipers would never agree on that. And we had multiple Russian policemen identified through OSINT, through social media. They were involved into this shooting of protesters in Ukraine and Kyiv. And I'm afraid that something similar might happen there, because they can, Khamenei may ask, for example, Bashar Assad or Putin, for example, to bring troops to Iran to help them deal with those protesters. And that's when they would really need weapons to protect themselves. Definitely.
Well, because this is one of those sort of situations where, he might, force his military to, start taking control of the streets or whatever. But can he trust his own military? Because, I mean, surely they must be divided too. I mean, this is the sort of thing that happens in all revolts, is you end up with, you ask your forces to come in and, and control the populace, but they don't all agree, and they're not on your side, and you end up with sort of kind of splits down there. Yeah. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't. I'm not even too sure what the point I'm trying to make anymore.
No, it's okay. No, you were doing good. Thank you. And Jimmy Palmer had a quote too that it says the human race will never change.
Mm-mm.
I'm afraid so.
It's true.
No, I think you're wrong. I think the human race will change. I have a certain amount of confidence in the human race.
Good.
Not all of it.
Not all right. They're right. As a whole, I think we can change, but there, like you said, there are certain ones that
Well, I think the problem is in generally the human race are nice people. We're all good. But what happens is to become a powerful person, you have to be a little bit of a cunt. And what happens is those people remain a see you next Tuesday after they've got the power. And yeah, what just goes wrong after that.
Exactly. And Crazy Cat 1 had a very good comment too. Where there is power, there is abuse of power. And that one that they wrote to you was very good as well. Find it. Yes, Liam Wakefield said, yes, asking an army to fire upon its own populace is a risky thing for a government.
True.
Yes.
So
Seriously.
having them do that, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Liam Wakefield, for actually writing down in words what I was gibbering in my nonsense and my Jenny. I'll shut up. Yeah,
Doing it.
Yeah, Liam, you come on the show. I'll leave.
And no.
And that goes along with what Hey MJ is saying, that the first step is awareness. Awareness is the first step. We don't look at what's going on like we're trying to do here, there's no way for you to progress and change forward. I think Recker made a comment earlier about that, about perhaps they would change, that religious sanctions if you put the mirrors out there and they were actually looking at themselves. I wonder if they would actually prosecute themselves for what they're doing, because what they're doing is exactly what they say they're against, and yet they're actively pursuing it and doing it constantly.
Constantly. Yeah. Aaron Reese is in the chat. Good to see you, Aaron. He says, we inch forward as a species. It's always a matter of, do we get there before a cataclysm occurs?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was just reading that. Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, exactly. And Texas Militia also had a great comment. It takes centuries for the humanity to change. You can see that in humanity's history, sometimes thousands of years. So sometimes it's a slow haul, but we still have to at least try.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Charlie too. Lately, it seems like progression is tougher than ever.
Yes,
I seem like things happened a little bit faster prior, and lately it's like pulling teeth.
It seems like there's resistance to change right now that's even stronger now. And I think, with everything going on, I can almost see why.
I've seen Star Trek. There are still dicks in the 23rd century. Me and Starsky can argue about Babylon 5 and talk about the dicks in that as well.
Oh, good. Well, based on biology and anatomy, I think there's always going to be. We're just not going to be able to do without that.
You put enough humans in a room and one of them will turn out to be the asshole. It's just the way it works.
We all have it in us.
But why is it always you, Dick?
Well, look at his name. What can we say?
I was born into it.
Yep. With a name like that, he had to be.
Destiny awaited.
That's right.
And he chose that name.
Yeah, no, you do realize.
Yeah.
You do realize his real name's Colin.
Yeah. Chapman. but not the Lotus guy.
Right. Well, like Charlie said, prick Dawson.
Oh, that's funny.
And Wrecker did have another good comment too. Thank you, Wrecker, and everybody for contributing to the chat tonight. It's been brilliant. Wrecker says, as a whole, we can always get better. If you look at it, we can't forget we live on one of the best times in history. But as we get closer to the light, the shadows do seem to be getting darker.
That's a good one.
Yes.
It is.
And then Texas Militia is daring us to argue with them about Stargate.
About Stargate. Oh, wait, that's a whole show. It's a whole show.
That's probably a whole series. I'm sure. So yeah.
Hey, you know what, Wrecker? I'm stealing that. I'm going to use that as the opening line to my new book. That's great.
That is
all right. Very good. Very good. And Aaron said, two people can be friends, but when you add a third, two of them will turn on one of the poor bastards.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's so true as well.
Yes.
Anybody that's ever been in a rock and roll band has seen that unfold.
Or a Discord game night, like it's vicious.
Oh yeah.
Well, the third wheel, they always say when friends go out, if there are three of you,
Or as Dick says, this is my wife. She's joining the band. She's playing lead tambourine.
I've never yokoed a band in my life.
Bands are not a democracy, Liam said. So there we go.
Oh, you need a leader in a band. Otherwise, it just completely falls apart. Look at every other band that didn't have one. Amen.
Parenting is not a democracy. Parenting is certainly not a democracy. I'm sorry, but that's one place where progressivism does not work. I am the totalitarian leader in my household. I kind of have to be. That kid would run right over the top of me.
If only, Amy, if only they gave you a country and God, there you go. You'd be a tyrant.
Yes, I would. No.
Kitties for everybody, whether you want them or not.
Yeah, you'll get one and you'll like it. Don't make me turn this country around.
Okay, that was good. Right.
Thank you. I don't know any parent that has not said that yet.
It's true. It's just like it just becomes with it. It's one of the only things it does. That and because I said so. You swear you'll never say it, right, Amy? You swear.
Oh God.
I will never say that. My parents said that to me. I will never say it. And then out of your mouth one day comes because I said so. Just do it.
Because it's always out of frustration too. And then I sit on the floor and cry. I'm like, my mom, exactly. I'm turning into my parents.
I know.
But it's okay.
I hear you.
One thing I always say, and of course it never happens, so don't take this the wrong way, everybody. I always say to Matt, if you keep doing that, slow and painful.
Yeah, I like Aaron's comment. He said he don't threaten to turn the car around. He threatens to leave the kids on the side of the road and go to Disneyland all by himself.
Yeah, national bedtime.
What you do is you pull the car up, you stop the car, you get out of the car, take the keys, and walk.
That's it. Maybe we need to send a parent coalition over to Iran and teach them how to actually enforce some things in there.
Oh my God! You know how many timeouts there would be, and
yes,
and me running around in the background, safe hands, safe bodies, and kind words.
Okay, go to that. Like anybody that's raised a teenager, if you ever got them to do a thing, anything. Okay, kind of people they need over there because
absolutely.
If you can get through to a teenager and get them to do anything, then we need you in the coalition. We'll go over there and we'll try to talk some sense to these people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and if anybody's buffering, just go ahead and try to refresh your page. It seemed to work for me, so hopefully that'll work for you.
Yeah, no drop frames here. So things should be just fine.
Right.
I'm not buffering. I'm not in the mood right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
There we go.
clean up in aisle 3.
Mm-hmm. I hope the
Yeah.
maid's still on duty. I don't want their job today.
Exactly. Christina S. says, my daughter and I laugh about some of my memorable parenting moments. And then Liam Wakefield, oi, Ayatollah, go to your room now.
It's like, go to your room. Go think about what you're doing. And when you come up with a better solution, come out and talk to me. Yes, that's a good
Exactly.
one. Mhm.
When you can straighten yourself out, that's when you.
Mhm.
Ooh. Very good. Texas Militia says, my mother was a 12-year vet of the U.S. Armed Forces, so I had a drill sergeant for a mother.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I would
I just heard.
assume. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just heard Forrest Gump in my head. Yes, drill sergeant.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I bet he always knew what was expected of him, no? Absolutely. You knew what was needed and what was expected of you. You made your decisions
Absolutely.
accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things I learned too with Matt's diagnosis of autism. When we first had help coming in the house, one of the first things they tell you is be as direct
Mhm.
as possible in your what you're trying to communicate to them. So it does help to have good communication skills as well. Because there were times when it's like, well, I need you to do this, huh? So yeah. So it's been interesting. But yeah. All right, we've almost hit the 2-hour mark. Should we do some roundtables, do you think, Dick? Should I go ahead and do that?
Sure, good timing.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to start going around the room. And DKG, just because I want to, I'm going to pick on you first.
Oh, I'm just gonna be short and shitty.
Okay.
No, it's a good night. Good night. It's absolutely fantastic having Starsky on this,
Absolutely.
hearing his thoughts about it, because with his background and what's going on in Iran, it's it brings a sort of like a reality check to people who don't know what it's like to be in that situation, because we haven't. Me in the UK, Amy, you in the US. I mean, you haven't seen revolution. I mean, when was the last time you had a revolution? That was quite a long time ago. I don't think even you can remember. And Canada's never had a revolution, so because you're just too laid back. So,
all right, you're making me feel old. 1865 was the latest.
Yeah, that must have been tough times for you back then.
It was.
Yeah. So no, like I say, great to have Starsky on the show. Great subject. Keep it going. And bring the realism back to the internet.
Absolutely. And thank you, DKG. And it was great having you on. You always contribute so much to these conversations. So thank you. And next up, I have Claire S. Bear. Claire, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Oh, my thoughts have been, like, as we've been just saying, it needs to be spoken on. I'm so happy that you're doing this and that we can be part of it, to get the conversation going, having serious conversations with a little levity, while getting the issues out there with the right information and not misinformation, and getting more voices involved with different perspectives, like today with Operator Starsky being here with us and giving us more insight into what happened in his country in regards to the same kinds of issues, and how we can actually help and contribute to helping people, the resistance, what we have to actually call the resistance of the Iranian people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to me, it was exciting. It was exciting to hear that. Yeah, very much today. So thank you again, Amy.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad I wanted to do this topic again. It's just something that really needs to be covered as well. So yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming on. Next up, we have Mipet 69. If you're up to it, would you like to do a wrap up?
Yeah, I'm quite fascinated. Here in South Australia, we actually have a uranium mine, and we don't have any nuclear power, anything over here. But yeah, right, sort of South Australia, we have a load of wind farms and all the sort of shit. But I'd be worried that yeah, if any nuclear shit went off, there'd be a bomb coming towards South Australia, and that would freak me out. But yeah, this whole conversation is needed because showing your hair in public, oh my God, you know, it's so far beyond wrong that, holy, yeah, I don't know what to say. But yeah, the conversation has to go worldwide, not just among a few people, not just, you know, one or two assholes in power. The world needs to have the conversation. So thank you, Aimee.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And next up, we have Operator Starsky. What are your thoughts on this evening, please?
So a lot of things to think about. Yes, I agree totally with Mipet. I can understand and I can respect traditions and cultures and different countries are different, but you don't kill your citizens for violating those rules. There are no rules precious enough to kill people for. No stupid law is worth that. You cannot kill teenagers like that blogger girl who died for nothing. She was brutally beaten, and currently there are reports of more than 100 of killed people. It's insane. Most of them are young people. Most of them, some of them were not even adults, and it's insane. In my opinion, we gotta do everything to support them, and I would, on my behalf, I would do anything I can to help them with at least our experience. So I hope that we will grow our community of supporters. I really hope so, and I really hope that we'll get in touch with those guys and bring them our support and all our help, anything that we can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on tonight. I so appreciate it. Stay safe, please. Thank you so much. And next up, we have Dick Dawson. Dick, what are your thoughts on this evening?
Oh, heavy topic, heavy action being taken. I mean, in the end, I just hope that everybody who partakes in the protests and the demonstrations is safe, but successful. I would love to see the people actually get a hold of that country and make it theirs, because obviously it's not what they want. And that pretty much wraps me up. Yeah. How about yourself, Aimee? What do you think?
Thank you so much. I'm hoping for the same things. I'm hoping that they're successful. I still have hope, holding out hope for them, especially as all of them are getting so angry about everything that's going on. And this last thing was hopefully the last straw for them, and they'll continue to keep pushing forward for a better, more equal society for them. So thank you so much. And thank you so much, everyone in the panel, for coming tonight. I so appreciate it. It was a great discussion. These things need to come out. We need to talk about these things. So thank you. And thank you so much, everyone in the chat, for coming as well. Thank you for your support and interaction in the chats. And thank you. So I wish everyone on that note a good night. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
here? It's over. Go home.